The contract we have with UMEME allows UMEME to withhold our payment in case of non-payment of the power bills by MDS. Yes. And UMEME submitted a statement of outstanding bills to the PSST. And if you look at that statement, which we will provide, you find that Ministry of Defense has an outstanding bill of 157 billion.
Defense, 157. Just a minute, 157 billion?
Yes, that was 157 billion. So that's the biggest, the bulk of it. So they wrote to us a notice to offset the 64 billion, and that's the amount you're indicating that, and it's provided for within the contract. Yes. So
the unfortunate thing is that you did not attach a schedule of those MDS. Procedure,
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair, now that you have guided that they should provide.
You have guided, isn't it procedure right that they can also provide the power sales agreements with these companies like that of Kenya, that of Tanzania, that of Rwanda, that of Congo, so that we can.
Okay. Yes, let me guide on that. Yes, Honorable Mali.
Mine goes to the CEO. Why did you enter into an agreement where you ask someone to retain your money that you have distributed, but then someone is retaining your money because where he has sold the power, they have not paid him? Why did you come out with such an agreement? And yet for you have done your part, you have transmitted. So someone is selling on your behalf, and you sign an agreement of not forcing him to pay your money, and yet you have transmitted already.
I think let me guide on the first one of Honorable Alan Mayanja. I think you can still provide those sale agreements with this. Okay, let someone deliver as we proceed. That's okay. Do you have an answer to Honorable Pindi Bumali's question? You're bad negotiators. I think that's the implication he's saying.
Okay. I would say that when we are going into these power sales agreements, there is a negotiation process. And because of that negotiation, the grounds that UMEME provided, much even before they listed, you wouldn't have wanted to bring down the operations of UMEME because the distribution would also have a problem. So if there was a component that distributor, it was only reasonable that you could meet halfway and say, for those MDAs, since there is no prepayment, we can accept that we will be paid when they pay. And then we push from the Minister of Energy and Minister of Finance to make sure these payments are made. But it's an understanding of meeting each other halfway in terms of this negotiation, as the chair has said. And if you consider that in a year we sell power close to 1.5 trillion and the outstanding amount is only 64 billion, you can clearly say in terms of business that we have not done very badly in this area.
Actually, you've done very badly because to us 64 billion is a lot. If we don't give it to you at some point, you say, oh, there is a huge of over 64 billion. It is also a lot of money, especially if the person you're collecting it is able to pay it. So we do not allow a coin. That's why when you come here, you account for each and every coin. We will get to that level. I think I can only say that the nature of supply is a specialized one, that not so many people would be in a position. If I were in your position, I would say not so many people would be in a position to offer, especially at the time. But we shall look at the agreement. We shall also look at those defaulters, why they are defaulting. If we are the problem, we will also sort ourselves out, because I believe we give them money for that. Do you have any evidence of communications between you and UMEME trying to enforce this date? That's why I was telling you the omission to attach. That one we can give you up to Friday to submit the exchanges in support of one. Colleagues, do we move to number 2, FAD salt?
Before we go to 1.2, well,
At data number 2.
okay.
Data number 2, FAD salt. You have won the case. Congratulations. We want to look at evidence. When did you win the case?
I will request my company secretary to give more details on this.
Yes, when you filed the suit, when the decision was rendered under civil suit number what, on the evidence of the judgment, and when it was delivered.
Thank you, Chair. And we got the judgment in our favor sometime last year, November. Chair, with your permission, I would request that you allow us to get a copy of the judgment, and then it will have the information on when the suit was filed and when the judgment was got. But we got judgment sometime last year, November, in our favor, and court awarded us about 40 billion shillings, inclusive interest, about 40 billion shillings. And we've been having meetings with the Attorney General and with FAD cells with a view to recover this amount. The recovery process is ongoing, Chair. That's what I can say for now. But with your permission, we will get you all the copies of the documents you've requested.
Was wound up. And now you are chasing the deceased. Stella?
Chair, we are doing our due diligence in terms of what assets we can recover against.
Is it true FAD salt was wound up or ceased to exist?
Yes, Chair. As we know it as of date, it doesn't exist.
Good. Have you found some property?
Yes, Chair. It might be. We have done some due diligence. We found some receivables that they have that we hope to recover against those receivables.
The decision was rendered late last year. There was no appeal. You're chasing the deceased. Since last year, you are still chasing the deceased. Meanwhile, the children and other beneficiaries are feasting on what you could grab on. Do you have any application in court to recover, to attach those receivables?
Yes, because the information actually of the receivables, we got them recently. So our lawyer is in the process of instituting execution proceedings against those receivables.
Do you have evidence of any attempt to institute execution proceedings?
Chair, not at the moment, but we had a meeting with our lawyers yesterday and 2 days ago, and they indicated that they've got wind of some receivables due to FAD salt from the government of Uganda, which we hope to pursue and get against.
I'm giving you up to Friday to give me evidence of efforts.
Okay.
In which case you should also tell us how much you have discovered is owed to the government of Uganda.
Thank you, Chair. We will provide the information.
And by close of business on Friday.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Colleagues?
Better, because when we are doing well, we are also doing well. And then number 2, Mr. Chairman, I would imagine that before you came, you went through this document and you should have had answers. But when you say, I'm not sure, maybe the other week, maybe we are not going to leave these queries. So the best would have been that, as the chair is saying, please have an evidence on what you are doing. Then we'll put it on record to resolve the query. Otherwise, the statements you are making, the excuses you are giving, you are not solving the problem. So my request, Chair, through you, that they should be honest to us and you say, this is what we are doing, this is what we cannot do. Can you help us? Where can you have a solution for this? Otherwise, when you become offensive and you say, I'm just going to give you an answer just to either go away or the queries will stand. So be sincere at us. Where you cannot say, here we have failed or we are doing this, that we know that there is something happening. Chair, just wanted to give that as a word of caution.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tungo. I think it's noted.
Has been put in place to recover this money based on what the company secretary has just told us, that they had a meeting with lawyers just yesterday. And yet, she knows very well the company has closed. There are other people who can even
Attach before you.
You do. And you just had a meeting yesterday for something that happened in November last year. So I just want to let her know that this is under your docket. If anything happens, you will be reliable.
I think you're not the concerns. Locked up, that one, law counsel is attacking anytime. Similarly, for these players in your field, you get to know that this one now we have not been giving them business. Anytime they are going down, you know that these are because mainly these are trading with the government. So you would be knowing where the dates are. Where do you go? You go to ERA, you go to Ministry of Energy, you know where to go. So as he said, we will hold you responsible in the unlikely event that we don't recover this money. UETCL relates to a claim of compensation for evacuation losses. Mr. Karamaji?
Thank you, Chair. Power to both UMEME and UETCL where UMEME would not reach. The losses for UMEME have been catered for by the regulator error in the tariff. The losses for UETCL had not been provided. So when we sell to them, they had taken it upon themselves to make deductions from our invoices. We have made this complaint to the regulator, and he has made it clear to them that they need to pay us, but UETCL has not been paying us for the losses they make. So we are actually pushing the regulator to help us and include these amounts in the tariff.
Mr. Karamaji, we are talking about a report of the Auditor General for the year ended June 2024. June last year. This audit was done in December, right? Am I right? That's when the report came out, December last year. But you had the engagement with the audit team before. How can you be telling us that up to now you are still engaging? You have an agreement with UETCL. I believe it provides for arbitration, mediation, and dispute resolution. A dispute arises over your invoices worth 21.6 billion. Okay? And you're saying they have unilaterally decided to withhold your money. Are you a serious manager? It's over a year now since you closed that financial year.
Chair, what you're saying is going dispute, and unfortunately we are dealing with related government agencies. And the only person who can be able to help us enforce this is the regulator. Otherwise, the other options of like not selling to them power and putting the country in a blackout is not an option.
But you, away from the regulator, you even have your minister. You're in the same ministry.
Yes.
You even have the same PS, the chief administrative officer of the CEO is what? Chief executive officer of the ministry. You have the political head of the ministry. It's over here since you closed this. And I believe, I know, not believe, that these invoices do not relate to June 2024. These are invoices relating to way before June. Show me efforts that you have made to recover this money. Show me here.
Chair, we will show you the efforts of the letters, but can I also ask the head of commercial who has
yes.
been in these meetings to say something on this issue?
Yes, let him tell us. Be on record, head commercial. Actually, you're head of poverty.
When UETCL withheld our amount, of course it was not in compliance with the PSA. We disputed that and we issued a notice of dispute. And this being a technical dispute by nature, the matter was referred to ERA because we are both licensed. UETCL and UETCL were licensed by the regulator. So the first recourse was to refer the matter to the regulator. So we've held a number of meetings with the regulator to try and resolve that matter. And at some point, the regulator provided around 7 billion towards this cause. Okay. Then subsequently, he didn't provide. So we've been having several engagements. The last meeting we had, the regulator tasked UETCL and UETCL to agree on a methodology for determining the evacuation losses. These losses are incurred as we evacuate power from the embedded generators through the distribution network. So the technical team that was around towards end of Feb. So the team is actually trying to review that to come up with a report which will be presented to the regulator, and then the regulator will determine after that. So we hope by around mid next month we will have the report out, because it also involves collecting data from the field.
You see, as it comes out, don't forget that we are crossing into another financial year. And it does not reflect well on your abilities and competences in terms of... You have a board, or it's your report direct to the ministry? Oh, okay. Minister of Energy. Have you brought this to the attention of the minister?
Yes, even at the AGM, these issues were raised because the financial statements were considered at the AGM that sat after the audit ended. We raised all these issues, including the issue of UMEME not paying us on the account of not collecting from MDAs. So it's an issue that is known in the ministry, and we continue to push for these issues to be resolved.
What has been the minister's response? Because we are going to ask the minister to be here.
The appeal, I mean, at the AGM, it was very clear that we were told to keep pushing until UMEME pays these amounts and UETCL. And for UETCL, we've gone to the...
You were told by who? I want you to...
By the shareholders, by the shareholders.
Okay, who are the shareholders?
Minister of Finance and Minister of Energy. Minister of Energy being the majority shareholder.
That's what they told you. You have the minutes.
Yes, of the AGM.
Will you share with us by Friday, please?
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Alan.
Chair, on that particular matter, when you read the response for compensation of UETCL for such losses, CEO, if you are aware that this is the solution, so how far have you reached the status of this wheeling agreement?
We've been working on these wheeling agreements again.
Pilot, who was with the UMEME and the UETCL, these were submitted to ERA for their comments, and we are still waiting for guidance on that. But the draft was shared with the regulator.
When did you first complain to ERA about this issue of UETCL not paying you?
I think it's a matter which has been on. I think as early as 2020, this was brought to the attention of the regulator. And like I indicated earlier, at some point, the regulator provided around 7 billion through the tariff towards this.
Will you please take note of this when we meet ERA? Will you give us some evidence in writing?
Chair will share with you the correspondences we've had.
Okay.
To ERA and also with the Ministry of Finance and Energy in copy.
Thank you. Friday. Let's look at number 4. That is Kirembe, Bex, Crex, Pacmex.
Yes. Chair, I will say something, and I will request that my head of commercial will also supplement on this. While there are certain areas where UMEME would not reach, we had distributors, just like FADSALT, to whom we would sell power.
Proceed.
So there are distributors to whom we would sell power where UMEME doesn't reach, but they entered into operational issues, and they have since handed over back to UETCL. But in those operational issues they had included also not being able to pay us. Now, during the period when this power is being provided to them when they did not pay, Rural Electrification approached UETCL to say, please don't disconnect them, they will make payments, they will make good, and then they ended up going away with money that they haven't paid us in the region of the 10 billion. However, on our part also what we did, because we did not collect this money and we had money that we owed Rural Electrification, we also withheld money for Rural Electrification. So there was a mitigating measure in terms of cash flow issues. So these people have not paid us, but we also have significant amount of money in terms of levies that we are supposed to have paid to Rural Electrification, which we have not paid to them because they kind of guaranteed these debts.
They are the guarantors. Then in that case, why would it be reflected in your books? What you would do is to meet with REA and say, is it REA, Rural Electrification Agents, as it used to be, is to say, we owe you this, you guaranteed this, we balance our books, it would not appear as an outstanding receivable. Why would it take you all these months, actually more than a year?
Let me say this, let me first request the head of commercial to say something, then I can conclude that.
Thank you, CEO. I think you've clearly elaborated on this, that this relates to those small concessions, cooperatives, which were operating those concession areas developed by REA. And as part of our recovery mechanism, we had issued disconnection notices to these small concession areas. And REA wrote back indicating that there is some amount which they owed those cooperatives and they were undertaking reconciliation, so they asked us not to disconnect and they guaranteed to clear the bills. So along the way, their licenses terminated, and as such, our PSA, a power sales agreement, also automatically terminated by virtue of the license terminating. So on that account, we tried to recover the amount and were not successful. So what we did, we took a strategic decision to offset that amount against what we owed REA. And we wrote to the Ministry of Energy seeking for their concurrence on the same. And because now REA was transferred to the ministry. So once we receive that, then we'll go ahead and adjust our books.
When did you write to the ministry?
The last correspondence, I think, was 2023.
Maybe to be systematic. When were the licenses terminated?
I don't have the dates of head, but we can provide a list of.
Again, it comes back to the same sluggishness I've complained about. You're talking about a report, an audit of financials for the year ended 30th June 2024, 1 year ago. You're talking about debts that arose before June last year. You had outstanding receivables from them. You also had outstanding payables from their guarantor. You have not resolved this. Did you need concurrence of the data to say, okay, of your creditor who is also data, to say, I'm offsetting, because you would not have these bad books. You have your money, you have taken a decision. But even corresponding with your own ministry takes more than a year. Mr. Karamaji.
Chair, as that rural electrification has also been in transition with many other issues, while offsetting the amounts would need legal documentation, because if we arbitrarily deducted this money from what we owe them, the question from the auditor would be, where is the authority for you to offset these amounts? So there's been that kind of complication.
So where are you keeping their money?
I mean, we have the liability on one side and the...
Where are you keeping their money which is due to them?
As in the actual...
Yes, the actual money, it is money.
I mean, the money is in the bank, but in terms of the bookkeeping, we have the liability and we have the data. But the ability to offset requires some legal instrument, which we don't have.
Which legal instrument is that?
I mean, like an agreement that they have accepted, we can offset from.
And if they say no, don't offset,
then you have no basis, because the auditor will say these people can sue you for the money that you owe them.
No. Did they commit in writing when they were committing?
I need to confirm, because.
But sir.
Yes, the commitment.
No, before, Mr. Karamaji, you're the one who gave us this write-up. And you knew we were coming here. And you knew this is an audit query. How did you prepare to respond to it? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I would want to apologize that the attachments, we should have come with them, but we will provide them, Chair.
Friday. The question is, did you involve the Attorney General?
Let me request my head of commercial to give more details on
Head
this.
Commercial, did you involve the Attorney General?
We've not yet involved the Attorney General.
Did you involve the Minister?
Yes, we wrote to the Ministry. Actually, the Ministry wrote to us demanding payment of that generation levy, and we wrote back, and we clearly indicated the offsets we had done, and then the balance was paid.
When was that?
That was in, I think, 2023.
Good.
Yes.
So, from 2023 to 2025, you are keeping this money somewhere in a suspense account. You are not resolving this. In the same ministry, intra-ministry, you cannot resolve this. Maybe you want us to invite you with your minister here. Where is the money? In which bank? Yes.
Chair, let me put it this way. When we collect monies that is related to the tariff, we do not like segregate it between who it belongs, maybe error or the money to be paid to the Jaga. It's one bank account, a collection account that is in Standard Chartered Bank. So all the money that is collected in terms of the tariff is in one basket.
Yes. So this money is in Standard Chartered Bank.
Yeah, but as and of when we all collection account monies are in Standard Chartered, and we keep on using it as and of when.
Vitungo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Then Vatua.
To disconnect, UMEME wrote to you and said, please don't disconnect. Raya said, please don't disconnect. Now, I want to find out from you, during the audit process, and even at the exit meeting, did you present those letters to the auditors, or you did not?
Chair, we provided all that evidence with the auditors.
Chair, maybe Chair, before you check with the auditors, Chair, I'm trying to make an observation, Chair. On the responses, they give the auditors and their current responses. When you look at the responses which they give auditors and the responses they are giving us, Chair, you can see there is a problem. Number two, Chair, I wanted you to inquire from the auditors whether their responses are supposed to be owned, to be signed by them, that they are responses. These responses seem not to be signed. So, Chair, can you find out from the auditors whether their responses are supposed to be owned and signed, but also if they are provided those documents they are talking about, then we proceed. Otherwise, if they don't own the responses, then they may not be accountable for the responses.
According to the document and what they state here, some bit of variance, but it crystallizes into one thing, that we have no evidence of any effort, which I think the effort will be provided in the letters they have undertaken, and also the discussions in their AGM. My only disappointment is whatever the effort, you cannot tell me that for the whole 2 years you have not resolved a matter within the same ministry, and that this money can still appear in your books as outstanding payments, and then on the other hand as outstanding receivables. It can't happen. It can only happen where you're so relaxed and laxed. Honorable Batua.
They are giving, in as much as we do not have evidence. I was also asserting that there is no disclosure in their books of accounts to suggest that they are settling that money with the payments they have that are due to where.
Please refer as to where you're saying.
Maybe we should ask the head of accounts to show us where it is disclosed that you used the credit the other side to settle the debt this side.
No, they have not used that. Actually, that's why we are quarreling. They are simply holding on to the money in Standard Chartered Bank, the interest to the agency, not to the individuals.
Chair, the kind of current account that we hold, doesn't stay there for long. The interest is minimal in terms
but
of...
this man has stayed there for long, for more than 2 years. When was the rural electrification levy abolished?
July. But let me just put this into perspective. These are book entries. It doesn't mean that we have this money held on the account as 132 billion.
Okay.
The issue is that we are supposed to pay you 130 billion as a levy, and we are saying we are not paying it to you because we have a number of government agencies which haven't paid us, including the 10 billion you're seeing here, the 63 billion from UMEME, and so on. So it's not like we collected money that we're
And you
supposed
keep it there?
No, it's a
You use it?
It's a book entry that we know we need to pay you 132 billion, but we are not paying you because we have not collected the money, because on this side we are also demanding. Yeah.
Okay. We will examine that when you give us the documents. And the documents relate only to effort. Okay? We will know who to ask which questions. Because even for error, that a complaint was lodged for over a year, you have not concluded such a thing, is an embarrassment to all of us. But is this the same explanation you have for all these BECs, CRECs, PACMECs? It is the same explanation. Okay, number 5, the government of Uganda.
On number 5, there was an outstanding of 48 billion that we expected to collect from the government on account of the fact that we had used money in 2011 to pay the generators during that crisis of 2011, which was supposed to be a government subsidy for the thermal generators to make sure that the country did not go into darkness. So the government requested us to pay that they would refund the subsidy that was supposed to be going to these generators. To date, this money has not been paid, including also the compensation for the pension for former UEB staff that were related to UETCL of 15.6. Up to now, we have not received this money from government.
How long does it take you to write off a debt as a bad one, and what procedures do you undertake? Yes.
Chair, I think in terms
In your
of
debt management policy?
Yes. Once the debt is more than 90 days, you provide. I think that's the main substance of the realization that you might not be able to collect this debt, but writing off would mean like forgetting about the debt. So the substance is that these debts have been provided for.
Year in, year out.
For the period when they were over the 90 days, to reflect to the readers of these statements that this debt might not be collected. But we've not written them off because we know these are debts that are to the government. Government has been making commitments. A debt to the government can always be, you can convince them to pay it in a day. So writing it off would be a disservice to ourselves, given that we've already made provisions.
I agree, because the government is not about to die.
Yeah.
But anyway, we will look at your efforts in seeking to have the money paid. And this one you have unpacked by showing us it is Ministry of Energy and Finance. How does it relate to finance? Through commitment?
Because the government is, Minister of Finance is the one that provides these subsidies. And the only vote with a subvention, they would have to come through Minister of Energy.
Okay, supposing the ministry had not asked you to pay these people, where would you have put the money? I'm asking.
Sorry?
Supposing the government had not told you to pay these subsidies and also to pay these pensioners, where would you have put the money? Where do you normally put your money when you collect?
Chair, I will ask my head of commercial to say something to that, then I'll come in.
Thank you, Chair. Now, what the pension areas, UEB pension areas? Actually, during that time, the lawyers had garnished our bank accounts to take that money. So through engagements with the regulator allowed us to pay on condition that government reimburses.
Did you take over the liabilities of UMEME, of UEB?
When the ruling came out,
It was against you.
Against us. Yes, and that was
So it was your liability.
And that was the basis for us to.
Was it your liability to pay therefore?
I would say it was an inherited
True.
liability from the.
Actually, your problem is you're reading too much into my question to imagine it's a trap. No, I'm actually helping you. If you inherited the liabilities of UEB, okay, and you have a judgment against you, you do not even need this assurance from government to pay that money. That's why they had garnished your accounts. In which case, you would have paid and you would have closed that matter. It would not remain an outstanding audit issue. Do you get my point? If you want assistance from government, it's a different matter. But if you use your money to pay a liability, outstanding onto your shoulders, it would not be an audit issue. Did you get my point? The problem is the confusion with the government that, oh, we have little money, but now they have attached our accounts. What do? They say, use that money, we shall refund. Then you reflect the promise in your books. Because what you reflected in the books was a promise of a donation.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Being a wholly owned government institution, the challenge we have to pay for anything that you did not budget for as accounting officer, you'll be putting yourself in a position where you've made a decision which had not been planned for. So when you have a ruling like this, which was not in your liabilities, it is only reasonable that you cover yourself by seeking approval from the regulator and the ministry that accounts are being garnished for information.
Yes.
And then you record this liability as money that will be sent to you from government. Otherwise, you'll have paid for something that you did not plan for.
Yeah. Okay. And it takes ages. Now, if you see that the person who promised you is not paying, you continue providing. And now, so it means, therefore, if they don't give you money, even next year we shall see the same query. We will take a decision on it. Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I think your opening question was very important. They're asking about, but Chair, the first one, you're asking about whether they have a debt management policy. And I think if the policy is there, then even the auditor would not query this. So the Chair's question about debt management policy, do you have one or you don't have?
Provide that component of debt management, how we should be able to collect, when we make provisions, and so on.
Chair, I think in a way of helping them, we need to look at that document came out. Which steps have you taken and what is the status quo?
Yeah, you sent us this response in February. Yeah, have you since made any progress?
Progress in terms of success, but we had already sent requests for these payments, which have not crystallized yet.
Okay, we shall look at the requests that
Chair.
you have made.
Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair.
when look at the status of, when look at Appendix 1, the long outstanding on page 38, the long outstanding trade and other receivables, the list includes Kenyan government worth 19.4 billion, includes Tanzania 11.8 billion, Rwanda 16.5 billion, almost 50 billion, and here we are in Uganda
Actually, it includes others which are not mentioned in 4.
Yeah, in Uganda, people don't have electricity, yet we are supplying electricity to these countries, which are defaulters. We need the status of these, specifically.
First of all, we don't know whether there is a change in status. Why